Have you ever looked at something really nice or more premium luxury item and thought to yourself, man, I wish I could afford that? On today's episode of the Rainmaker Family Show, Stephen and I are going to tell you how you can actually afford anything by a simple mindset shift. I'm so excited to dive into today's episode, talking all about how you can actually afford more than you think, and we're going to show you how.
This is something we do in our life in a lot of different areas. And if you are a big fan of #treat yourself, this is the episode for you. Okay. And this isn't just about stockpiling nice things, but sometimes nice things can really improve the quality of your life.
Yeah.
They can really shift your health. They can really shift your wealth. They can really shift your relationships in the right direction. And so on this episode, we're going to show you a very simple 5-step process to afford anything, to get really nice things at a fraction of the price.
I love how you kind of framed it up. Like, Stephen and I are not materialistic people. Like, we're not after like the nice next Louis Vuitton purse and the next Chanel purse or like the fancy car. I mean, those things are great. And we do have some luxury items in our life that have truly changed our life. But it's beyond that. Like Stephen said, it's about like being able to afford the personal trainer that you know you want and need, or being able to go to the grocery store and buy organic, farm to table, like kind of food that you've always dreamed of. So it's not just like the stuff. The stuff is great. And we're not like dissing that at all. If you want the $1 million beach home, or if you want the Chanel brand new purse, like, I'm going to support that. But I will say it's beyond that. Like Stephen and I, our heart is for legacy. But we want to show you this method that we've taken, honestly, a long time ago in our wedding business. We started practicing this, and I feel like it has helped us so much in the future. And it's a mindset shift. And we want you to catch the fire, catch the wind. We want you to experience what we have too.
We actually did a write-up on this for a national publication, and they posted on their blog. They posted it all over, and it got a lot of attention. And we just were reminded us the other day, because again, this concept comes up a lot of times in our lives. You can apply it to real estate. You can apply it to luxury items. You can apply it to things that are going to improve your life. And we've talked about many of these things on the podcast. If you haven't heard our podcast on our best investments, there's some of these things in there, like the bed that cools us and the weighted blanket that we use to like optimize our sleep. And like, I mean, how valuable is sleep, right? But if you think, oh, I can't afford it, right, then it's going to hold you back from stepping into some of these things that might be more available to you than you think. So let's give you a really practical example of this on this episode. And if you have your notes, okay, you should have your notes on this one, because it's a simple 5-step process you can go through with anything to run it through your mind and see if it's actually possible for you to afford things. So you can get out of this thinking of like, I can't. This podcast is all about that how can I mindset when it comes to building a business, when it comes to having time freedom and financial freedom for your family. We're not the people that say I can't. We like actually just avoid that in our lives. It's so funny. Kaizen right now, he's saying, what does he say? I can't. He says like, can't I? Can't I? He like says it backwards. So we're like, oh, you can go up the stairs. He's like, can't I go up the stairs? We're like, no, you can go up the stairs. Right. So this is about the shifting your language from poverty thinking. That's like a focus on what you lack, focus on what you don't have, focus on the I can'ts, to abundance thinking, focusing on what you have, focusing on what's available, and even just shifting your time horizon around money. So you have a longer picture, which makes it a lot easier to afford things now. Okay, so let's jump into this process.
Yeah, so for us, this all started when Kaizen was a baby. We were looking at a more luxury baby item that honestly felt like out of our price range at the time. And I remember like I wasn't even interested in it, but Stephen was. And it's called the Snoo, or the Happy Baby like Snoo Sleeper. There's this incredible bassinet that will actually kind of like rock your baby back to sleep. And it's a little controversial, but for us, like sleep is super important. And so we were just like looking into, should we purchase this? Should we not? And it was one of the first times we had this realization, like, how much is it worth it to us to invest in this?
Well, you said they're so important, because this is, again, like you're hearing Chelsea say it, but this is not a lot of people's default. Chelsea's really developed a wealthy mindset. See, a poor mindset, a poor person, they're going to think, how much does it cost? Oh, how much does it cost, right? They read the menu at the restaurant right to left. Okay, let me just determine what I'm going to eat based on what I can afford. How much does it cost me, right? But wealthy people shift their thinking to how much is it worth? Okay, how much is it worth? Or even what's the cost of not doing this, right? What's the cost of not getting into this coaching program? What's the cost of not having this snoo that's going to give us an extra 2 hours of sleep? Now, the extra 2 hours of sleep is not guaranteed with a newborn. However, we wanted to have everything in our advantage. We were running a business and this is our first baby. And we were like, hey, this thing is fancy. Okay. It's definitely premium. You can buy a bassinet for like $100 or less. And I mean, you can just have like a pillow, like people in other countries will put their kids in cardboard. Okay. Like babies will sleep anywhere. Okay. But if we can have this premium bassinet and try it out, and it's going to get us an extra 1 to 2 hours of sleep per night, how much is that worth it to us as new parents, as business owners? And, at this stage when we're having Kaizen, this is like early days of Rainmakers, which we were really leaning into 2 businesses at once. And so we really had to maximize our time and our energy.
And so for us, getting that snoo was worth a lot. Like having the potential of 1 to 2 hours extra sleep was worth it to us. So at the time, I know snoos have totally changed. We have a screen over here. So if you see us looking at it, if you're watching on YouTube, that is why. But at the time, a brand new snoo retailed for about $1,300.
Yeah. $1,300.
Yeah.
Now, like, I think right now they're like $1,600.
Yeah.
But this thing will still work. I think we should break down the 5-step process.
Okay.
So take notes on the 5-step process, because you're going to hear it and be like, wait, oh, what? Like, it's like, you got to like run through it a couple of times. So let's get you guys writing down the 5-step process, super easy. And then we'll run through that process with the snoo to show you how we did it. And then we'll also run through the process with some other things we've done this with. And once you learn this, you can apply it to anything in your life. Okay. If there's that thing in your life, like, oh, I just really want, that RV, I really want to do this thing. And there's something on it that you're like, I just feel like for my family in this season, like that's going to be an awesome lifestyle upgrade for us, right? This is a way you can do it. Okay. So the 5-step process, here we go. Okay. Step number 1, see nice thing and check the price. Okay. Yes, we are going to check the price because we're going to work some math here. Okay. This is for our logical people that just need to see the numbers to make sure they can do it. I remember like when we wanted to go to Paris, we wanted to plan this trip to Paris. It was always a dream, but it was like, wow, this is so far away and it's so expensive at the time. We were running our wedding business, but we had to think about like, once we got the number, it made it more reachable. We started saying, okay, what does a trip to Paris actually cost? We want to stay there 10 days, do an Airbnb. We actually started numbering it out and going like, okay, it actually costs this. And then we just worked our way backwards. Like, how could we make that money? And for us, Paris, it required us taking on another job or 2 in the wedding business when we were doing that. And so we did that. We took on an extra wedding job or 2, knowing that even though it stretched us a little bit in that season, a little bit of hustle, we're like, this is for Paris. This is for Paris. And it was like so awesome that we were able to do that. Right. And so seeing the price is going to help you actually wrap your head around this. So step 1, you guys got it down. See nice thing you want and check the price. Write it down. Okay. Step number 2.
Check the used price that it sells for. Make sure it holds some value over time.
Okay. So step number 2 is check the used price. Okay.
What is it selling for after it's not brand new?
Yeah. For like us, for the snoo, for example, we checked the retail price. It was $1,300. We checked the used price on Facebook Marketplace, on eBay, and we wrote that down. Okay. Now think about how long you would use said thing before you might sell, upgrade, or retire that thing. Okay. Some things you're going to run them into the ground, but some things hold their value and you might resell them. For example, camera gear. Like we sell camera gear all the time. We buy camera gear and then sell it because camera gear holds its value and we'll use it for a season and then a new thing comes out and then you sell it, right? Same with the iPhone. Like I have 2 iPhones on my desk right now that I'm about to list on eBay because we buy the new iPhone and then we unlock the cell phones, list them on eBay, and they sell for good money. So I could buy the new iPhone for $1,000, sell the old one for $600, and then the new one only cost me $400. Okay. So check the used price. That's number 2 of what it sells for and make sure it holds some value over time. Like look for a 1-year-old one, a 2-year-old one, or however long you plan to use this item and see if it holds the value.
Step number 4, take the retail price and subtract the used price that you found.
Okay, so you just heard me do that. Let's use the iPhone. Retail price, $1,000. Used price of 1, 2 years old, $600. One really great way to do this that's very accurate is go to eBay, especially with electronics or something like that. Go to eBay, search for the exact model of your old phone, iPhone 7 Plus or whatever, right? And then in the eBay filters, you can filter the search results to show you only the sold listings, okay? Show me only completed and sold listings. It's over on the left on desktop, and mobile it's at the top. So sort it by sold, and that's actual data of things. You can be like, wow, this sold last week for this price and this price. And you can get an average of like, what does this thing sell for used, okay? So step number 4, take the retail price, let's say 1,000, minus the used price, let's say 600. And then step number 5, this is the big kicker.
Yeah. Ask yourself, would I rent this item for that amount of time for this price point?
Okay. So ask yourself, would I rent this item for that amount of time for this price point? Okay. So let's say I want the new iPhone. I plan to use it for about 2 years before I sell it and either get a new iPhone or trade it or whatever, right? So I ask myself, is it worth it to me? $400, right? New iPhone 1,000, sold iPhone 600. So $400 is my difference, my out-of-pocket difference. Is it worth it to me? $400 or $200 per year to like rent this iPhone? Okay. And so if the answer is yes, buy it. All right. Buy it. Because yes, your bank account goes down $1,000 or whatever that big purchase ticket item is. However, you're seeing a longer term perspective of this money. You're going to recycle this money. You're going to keep that iPhone nice. You can get the screen protector for it. You can get the case for it. You're going to sell it for as much as you can when you want to sell it. And then you go buy the next one or whatever it is. You recycle this money over a time period. And it's like renting it, like $200 a year. And if the answer is yes, go do it. Okay. So let's run through this new example. You guys got your 5 steps on your piece of paper. Let's run through this new example of what we did in our head and why it made so much sense to buy this premium bassinet and get an extra 1 to 2 hours of sleep, which it actually worked for us, right? Sometimes it doesn't work for people. Babies are all different, right? And so sometimes it doesn't work, and Snoo has this 30-day money-back guarantee. So we're like, hey, we'll take the risk. If it doesn't work, we'll return it. But if it works, like that's so worth it to us, right? So first step, make sure you shift your thinking. How much is it worth? Okay, so let's go through the 5 steps again. So step number 1, check the retail price. What was the retail price of the Snoo at the time?
$1,300.
$1,300, okay. Step number 2, check the used price. Like, for a 1 to 2 year old 1 to 2 year old item, because we plan to like maybe use this for 1 to 2 years. We weren't sure, 1 baby, 2 babies, I don't know. So we checked, and the used price was
$800.
$800. Okay. So step number 3, how long are we going to use it for? Right. And so for us, we plan to use it for like 1 year. We've actually been using it longer. So that's cool, but they still sell. But for at the time, it was like 1 year. So let's change that to 2 years. And then step number 4, what's the difference? Okay. So the difference between retail, what we bought it for, or what you could buy it for, and what it could sell for a year or 2 later was $495 or $500. Okay. So then step number 5, ask yourselves, or we asked ourselves at the time, would we pay $500 for maybe 1 to 2 years use of this thing for the potential opportunity to sleep more every night? And the answer was yes. Yes, we would.
Yes.
Now, here's the thing, you guys. As I was looking on Facebook Marketplace, I was like, man, there's 2-year-old ones, 3-year-old ones, 4-year-old ones still selling for $600 to $800. And so what we decided to do in that season was not get the retail one. We just got a gently used one for $800. Okay. So $800, we could probably turn around and still sell this thing for $500 to $600. So for us to have this new, really, it's only costing us maybe $150 a year. So is it worth it to rent the Snoo for $150 a year to get a little bit extra sleep, which it definitely has done for our sons. It's trained them actually to put themselves back to sleep, which has been so helpful. And both our sons, Kaizen by 4 months was sleeping through the night. Ollie probably by 2 months was sleeping through the night. And they both sleep consistently 10 to 12 hours. Now, I'm not saying that's entirely the Snoo, but it definitely started a healthy foundation. Is that worth $150 a year?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Are you guys seeing this? How to afford anything. Okay. You could do this with a luxury purse. Okay. You want that Louis Vuitton? I get it. Okay. You want the Louis Vuitton purse. The resale market is hot on those things.
Yeah.
As long as you keep it nice and your dog doesn't chew it up, like you're good. Okay. So, you can buy this purse for $2,000. You could still resell it for $1,000 to $1,500. If you're going to use it for 2-3 years, is it worth it to you to rent that purse for $500 for 2 to 3 years? If the answer is yes, you'll get it. And you can afford the dip right now. Now, I know it's scary because like sometimes like you don't have the cash flow to do something like this, right? And so I totally get that. But if you can see a longer term horizon with the money, it is possible for you to afford things sooner than you think, and know that you have this abundant mindset of like, I'm not just going to like trash this thing right into the ground. I'm going to resell it. I'm going to recycle it. And I'm going to, trade it, whatever it's going to be, to steward what you have. Okay. Steward what you have.
Awesome. So this is just like, I feel like wealthy people start to think this way about items. And I just want, I think this is a really important concept to talk about, especially if you have like a big goal in mind. Like we want to buy our first home, or we want to buy a vacation home, and it costs about roughly this amount. Stephen and I, if you don't have the down payment or whatever it is, like, we're not saying go out and buy it right now and ruin your credit and do all those things. We're just saying like, here are some healthy ways to think about how I could in the future purchase this item. How can I make that happen? Like in my business, how much money do I need to set aside each year to purchase this new car or to afford this next vacation? Like, these are steps that you have to start thinking about to make it happen, especially if you're in that thinking of like, I can't do this. I can't do this. It's like, no, actually, how could you? That's what I love about when we teach our Amazon students. It's like, okay, so you want to quit your job. How much does your job make? Okay, then work your way backwards. How many products do you need to launch? How much do they need to make each month for you to be able to do that? So it's just simple math. And for me, like, especially early on, like Stephen, definitely, we are both risk takers now. We've learned to do that, like healthy risk, because we know that we are seasoned entrepreneurs. We can make bigger risks than we could have initially. So I totally get that. But that really helped me early on in our business, just understanding the numbers. Like, if we're going to purchase this item, or if we're like the Paris thing, if we're going to go on this extra vacation that we weren't planning for, we weren't budgeting for, what do we actually need to do to make that happen so it doesn't feel like it's draining us dry? And for us at the time, it was working an extra job. Christmas, whatever it is coming around, just be thinking about that. And I love this concept too, to teach your kids. I think sometimes our kids, whether it's a very big dream or it's a small dream or it's something that they really want, how can they afford it? And start thinking with them like, okay, I see that you want this new bike for this time of year. How could you afford it? Could you do some extra chores? Could you do this? And rewarding them for that. I think it's just a super powerful concept to living in. How could we make this happen? How could we dream this up? And I think even like we've had conversations with different people who are modeling this, and I love hearing their stories. But say you have a kid who's like, I want to be an astronaut. Like, I want to go to the moon, instead of shutting them down and saying, no, you can't do that. Do you know how much schooling and all this stuff and getting into the nitty gritty? You just say, okay, if we were to go to the moon, how do you think you would get there? And you start talking about like, well, we need to build this thing and I need this schooling. And you just get them going in like this abundant thinking. And that's ultimately, they'll either realize, well, maybe right now in my life, I can't go to the moon, or that's not a good idea. I'm going to change it to something else. But I think that's so important to have those healthy mindsets. So
take this mindset behind how we buy nice things, how you can afford anything. You can apply this to anything. We did this. I remember like in our business, we did this with a $20,000 camera we wanted to buy for our commercial videography business at the time. Yeah. And it was just like, okay, how could we do this? Check the price, make sure it resells for a good price, and make sure would we rent it for that difference? You could do this with real estate. I remember when we were looking at this home that we're in, like it was a big jump for us financially at the time. And so we started thinking like, could we keep our current home, rent it out, and put some of that towards the mortgage of this house? Or do we sell this house? Like, there's so many ways to structure things. I even think about Madeline, who is on our podcast. Her episode says something about like $1 million beach house. She always wanted to buy $1 million beach house. And the thing is, you guys, you don't need $1 million to buy $1 million beach house. You just need enough for the down payment. Okay. You need enough for the down payment. And then the thing is, you're not maybe going to stay in this beach house every single day of the year. Right. So you put this beach house on the marketplace, and her beach house will rent out and make $30,000 in a month. And so that's paying down the mortgage while other people are enjoying the thing. And she owns $1 million beach house that they can go to and travel and block off anytime. And so this thinking is so, so powerful. Okay. You can apply this to anything. You apply it to cars. Like, we met this guy who ran a Turo fleet. Turo's this app where you can rent out your cars, and he had all these nice premium cars. He just started with one, and he's like, hey, I bought this car. The car payment was $800 a month, but I just rented out on Turo and I make $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I took that extra money, I saved up for the next car, and I just repeated the process. And we've met guys who have 50, 100 cars in their fleet at this point, and they're just literally doing this, recycling the money and using other people to fund their dreams. Mm-hmm. And so we want to give you this concept, 5 steps. Hopefully you took notes. This is a short and sweet episode, but hopefully it changes your life on how you think about affording the things in your life that you're drawn to. Okay. If that's something that you're like, man, I wish we could do this thing, sit down and run the numbers on it. Think abundantly. There may be a way for you to do this in a smart way that has a longer time horizon, that's thinking like a wealthy person and not like someone who's stuck.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Rainmaker Family Show. Hey, if you are not a part of our Rainmaker Mastermind, we have a new opportunity for you to book a strategy call with one of our coaches.
If you want to do that, go to makeItRainMama.com/podcast. That's mama, MOMMA. makeItRainMama.com/podcast. And you can check out the case study of our Rainmaker program, as well as book a one-on-one strategy call with one of our coaches.